Welcome, salam, shalom, and peace. Welcome to another Whittlesea Interfaith Network event, Interfaith Engagement for a Connected Community. I'm Gulhan Yildiz, President of Whittlesea Interfaith Network, and I'll be your MC for tonight. I begin by acknowledging the continuing custodians of the land on which we gather, the Wurundjeri, and the lands on which you're all joining from tonight, and I recognise their connection to land, waters and culture, and I pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging. I stand with our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander brothers and sisters on land that was never ceded. I commit to listening and learning about how we can better support First Nations people and begin by educating myself, my family and my community. Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. We have a very rich and diverse program ahead. We have Sikh speakers, we have Jewish speakers, we have Muslim speakers, an Indigenous Muslim elder. We have intercultural officers from 3 different municipalities speaking from across Victoria. We have the Honourable MP Lily D'Ambrosio, former Mayor Chris Pavlidis, and several speakers sharing their reflections and experiences here with us today. Today is the 11th of September, 2021, and we are commemorating 20 years since the heinous September 11 attacks on the Twin Towers, on the Pentagon and the people of the United States of America. We reflect today on the families and the first responders, the emergency services, and the communities that were directly impacted by the September 11 attacks, those who lost their lives, their loved ones, their health, and we also acknowledge the ongoing trauma as a result of these attacks, and our sincere prayers for healing to all who have been and continue to be impacted. Now, I wanted to mention that today's events are personally significant for me as a Muslim woman and also in representing Whittlesea Interfaith Network, as we acknowledge the courage and the leadership of those first interfaith leaders, those first leaders of various faith groups who in a time of fear and confusion, of animosity and division, that was fueled by media bias, were somehow able to establish these interfaith platforms which are paving the way for the meaningful conversations we're able to have today. So our topic is Interfaith Engagement for a Connected Community, and we'll be hearing some reflections in the aftermath of the attacks and exploring the role interfaith engagement had on building community cohesion and resilience. And I'd also like to notify that you might find the topic of today distressing, so please use your discretion. And the things that are shared are reflective, they're authentic to the speakers themselves. So they're not pre-organized, they're authentic and true. And lastly, please be aware that this video is being recorded and we're looking to share it on our Whittlesea Interfaith Network social media platforms for others to be able to watch as well. And if you don't wish to be in the video, please turn off your cameras and maybe keep them off. Without further ado, I call on Glenys, the Whittlesea Interfaith Network Secretary, to say the opening prayer.
Dear God, we gather here with the intent of doing good in your name. We humbly ask your forgiveness for any wrongdoings or misunderstandings in the past. Give us strength and guidance to act honestly in all we say and do. Unite our hearts and may our efforts be blessed with good insights of wisdom, understanding and respect for all. Help us to honour our fellow human beings in their faith journeys, and may we honour the spirituality and practices of others. In a spirit of peace, unity, understanding and love, may generosity and compassion triumph over indifference. In your name we pray, O Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you for that, Glenys. We now welcome, we now invite Aboriginal Muslim elder Andrew Gardner, who is the traditional owner, treaty engagement officer at the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Cultural Heritage Aboriginal Corporation. Welcome, Brother Gardner. Just that spotlight. You're on mute, Brother Hassan.
Alrighty. Assalamu alaikum. Peace and blessings be upon you all. I'm humbled to be here tonight to commemorate the 20th or the 20 years since the 11th of September attack. I'd like to thank Win and Sister Gulhan for an invitation. My reflection, I guess, is part of the welcoming component. My reflection, 20 years ago, I was living in Cairns, far north Queensland, and I travelled to Townsville to do some induction training with Centrelink. The first morning at the hotel we were down having breakfast in the dining room, and just as we were about to eat, big flash message came up on the TV. Everybody started gathering around, just looking at it, gobsmacked. Shocking, unbelievable images of the plane flying into the World Trade Center. Everyone had a oh my God moment. The horror of those images etched into our minds. They replayed them over and over again for the rest of the day and for the rest of the week and for weeks after. The official government report that the towers had collapsed on themselves, handed down in the Bush administration, was shown to be untrue by many reputable engineers in the United States. And the reasons why, well, that's for another session. Suffice to say that forever changed our view of the world. And then how we can really look at who really deals out terror. Now, to me, my heritage through my mother is with the Wurundjeri clans of the Wurrung people. Our traditional country extends from the Werribee River in the west to the Great Dividing Range in the north, to Mount Borbor in the east, and to Mordialloc Creek in the south. Aboriginal people and monotheistic religions have a lot of similarities. The belief in the one creator, a separate men's and women's business, close family ties and traditions, respect for elders as knowledge holders who have wisdom and guidance to give advice. I would like to welcome you all here tonight to Wurundjeri country and acknowledge the other countries that you might be on, and pay respects to our elders, past, present and emerging. And to other elders here tonight, I say welcome. In the language of my ancestors, I'd like to say Womanjika, Wurundjeri Wurrungbalak, Yimung Kundibik, which means welcome to the land of the Wurundjeri clans of the Wurrung people. Salam, shalom and peace.
Thank you. Thank you, Uncle Andrew Gardner. One moment while I take. Apologize. Okay. I also need to, I'd also like to take this opportunity to mention that we're aware that it was Shabbat for the Jewish community. And we say sincerely, Shalom Shabbat. And also I understand it's a significant religious day for the Hindu community today as well. Without further ado, we now have the founder and the pioneer of Whittlesea Interfaith Network and former mayor of City of Whittlesea, Chris Pavlidis. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you, Gulhan. It is indeed a pleasure and an honour to be with you all tonight, and I'm one of the founders, not the founder, but thank you. Thank you to Andrew for that very warm welcome, and I too would like to pay respects to the Wurundjeri Willam people of the Kulin Nation and acknowledge that we are meeting on Wurundjeri, or many of us are meeting on Wurundjeri land, and pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I'd also like to acknowledge the Honourable Lily D'Ambrosio, the Minister for Climate Change, Energy, Environment and Solar Panels, and also very importantly, the member for Mill Park, state member for Mill Park. So Lily, I believe you've joined us. Lily is here, yeah. I'd also like to, in the acknowledgements, thank you, Gulhan, as the current president of the Whittlesea Interfaith Network. And in fact, I'd also like to acknowledge all of the preceding presidents for WIN over the 15 years, as well as the committees and members who have played a pivotal role in bringing the Whittlesea Interfaith Network to this point in time. I won't name everybody. There's a lot of people that I've had the pleasure and the honour and the privilege to work with over all these years in different capacity. Whittlesea Interfaith Network is about community connectedness and engagement that transcends our differences and finds common ground to grow from through mutual and reciprocal sharing and learning. And since its inception 15 years ago, there have been a number of very successful activities and events that WIN has held. For example, Women and Faith, the Youth and Faith Forum, several expos, and our gathering here this evening is another such event. We respectfully remember this evening on the 20th anniversary and pay tribute to those innocent lives, a couple of thousand, at 9/11. And as well as those people who are still recovering and struggling to recover from that devastation, the tragic, devastating event of 9/11. We come together in the face of adversity and lean on each other to build strength and grow our resilience as a cohesive community. Our faith, as I see it, is a personal experience and it's often guided by the formal religions and religious structures, and it's often manifested as a cultural celebration. At such deeply challenging times, our faith has a public impact in our community, on our neighbourhoods, in our families. My background, my cultural background is Greek, and I've been raised in the Greek Orthodox religion. And I've also understood, as I said, that a lot of the rituals of the Greek Orthodox religion are manifested through cultural interpretation, if you like. And I think that's, you know, been a good context for me to raise my children within as well. I want to congratulate again everybody who's been part of this event and talk about, I suppose, where we're going with this and what we've learned from this, and look towards the future and try and get a sense of hope amongst the challenges that come before us. And interfaith connectedness does that for us. The fact that in 2020 we're able to gather as we are this evening, a diverse group of people of diverse differing backgrounds, cultural and otherwise, and religious-wise, and come together and have these kind of very open discussions in a very safe space, in a very mutually respectful space. I think this speaks volumes that even though we do have more recently, we've had external challenges to that really do scratch at the very core of who we are as individuals, who we are within our own families, our neighbourhoods, our communities. These kind of gatherings, I think, play a pivotal role in keeping us together and keeping that tapestry of our society tightly woven. So I'm really pleased to be part of this. Thank you again, Gulhan. I commend everybody who's been involved in Whittlesea Interfaith Network. And as we move forward for our future generations, I think there's still a lot of work to do, but we're doing it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that was Chris Pavlidis, the former mayor and one of the founders of Whittlesea Interfaith Network. Now, before we move to the next speaker, I want to acknowledge that in the audience today, we have representatives from St Monica's College, we have Al-Sadat College student representatives and the coordinators for both the schools as well, who are involved in interfaith programs collaboratively, which is wonderful for the city of Whittlesea. We've also got representatives from Northern Interfaith and Manningham Interfaith as well, and members from the Zoroastrian community, which are a minority community here in the city of Whittlesea. Now we move on to, let me just scroll down because we do have the Honourable Lily D'Ambrosio with us. Now I want to mention specifically that Lily D'Ambrosio has a long history of supporting Whittlesea Interfaith Network. She's participating in most of our programs, our major programs, the annual Women of Faith event, our annual Interfaith Ramadan dinner she's always a part of. She's the member for Mill Park, and she wears many, many hats, and including the Minister for Energy, Environment and Climate Change, and also the Minister for Solar Homes. Welcome, Lily D'Ambrosio, and thank you very much for joining us here tonight.
Thank you very much for that lovely welcome. And I would like to begin by firstly acknowledging the land upon which we are variously situated, and that is the land of the Wurundjeri people. And my respects are very always first and foremost to the elders of the Wurundjeri people. And those respects are to all elders who are of the past, present and emerging, and certainly to Uncle Andrew Gardner, who is an elder here amongst us this evening, and others who may be here this evening. And importantly also, of course, my acknowledgement goes to all faith leaders that are present here tonight, to Gulhan Yildiz, the president of the Whittlesea Interfaith Network, to Chris Allen, who is the Victoria Police Local Inspector, and all of you very good people who come to this event in the shared knowledge and aspiration of what keeps us together is something that we must always strive to enhance and to shape so that the broader community gains strength from that very action. Tonight, of course, is a commemoration of a terrible event that occurred 20 years ago. The anniversary to mark certainly what was in the eyes of everyone, a very catastrophic set of attacks where almost 3,000 people lost their lives, people who were going about their business, doing normal things, going to work to support their families, going to school, walking down the streets, meeting with family and friends, enjoying life as they do. And we know, of course, that as we mark the passage of 2 decades since the day that did change many lives forever, it has challenged certainly our community cohesion and a sense of safety and security. And I think that is something that we need to also reflect on tonight. How have we fared in terms of that sense of safety and cohesion and security in our own communities over these last 20 years? But importantly, of course, paying tribute to those almost 3,000 people who did lose their lives, the rescue and recovery people who selflessly gave of their all without a minute's hesitation to run and rescue whatever they could and whoever they could. And that is really a demonstration of how when we strip back some of the very superficial ways that perhaps we can each see each other, what we all are ultimately is a group of people who share values in human respect and dignity, and putting ourselves sometimes in the line of our own sacrifice potentially to assist those in greater need. And we, of course, need to have used this two decades to reflect on how do we as a community do more to demonstrate that with cohesion, with social sharing of information and values comes understanding, deeper understanding, and hopefully greater harmony and cohesion. Amidst the devastating tragedy we realise through gatherings such as these tonight, that goodness can and does prevail. Victoria does proudly boast one of the more successful models of multiculturalism. And when we talk about multiculturalism, intrinsic in that, of course, is the various faiths that we all have and share and in this community. We as a state, where approximately 50% of our population is non-English speaking background and affiliated with diverse religions. Just in my own community, my own electorate of Mill Park, we are very fortunate to live and work with this rich diversity. Diverse multicultural community that it is, with more than 80% of the population identifying with a particular faith. That is a very, very significant number. And yet, any other day, every day, the tendency is for us to live in harmony and with respect. But of course, we know that sometimes that can be shaken and sometimes shaken to its very core, either through the acts of individuals or groups or incidents or attacks, which can sometimes threaten the very fabric and the tight-knit fabric of our society and our local communities. That's why Victorian Government is committed to protecting, to nurturing, to celebrating our multicultural and multi-faith Victorian community. It is an affirmation each time we do that, that we value each other and we respect each other. And there is space, not just within the private realm of our homes and our places of where we express our faith, but in the public realm, importantly, which is the ultimate area for us to be able to demonstrate respect and harmony. These values are enshrined in legislation through the Multicultural Victoria Act and the Victorian Anti-Racism and Anti-Discrimination legislation, protecting the right to practice one's faith without fear of vilification, recognising the state's cultural, religious and linguistic diversity as one of its greatest assets. So the government has very much strengthened support of interfaith events and activities through increased funding, grants to support and celebrate religious events. And we all participate in those events because simply by our presence, we know that we are invited, we are welcome, but we are also, as we come into that, demonstrating our own support for a respectful relationship at those events. The State Government's Multi-Faith Advisory Group regularly brings together faith leaders to address the role of places of faith, to engage people through their faith and to work towards a safe and harmonious society. So with the challenges of the COVID pandemic, which makes it very difficult for us to come together, it is really critical for us to understand and recognise that we find a way to still reach out and to support each other. And we know that certainly a number of faith-based communities have reached out in many ways, either delivering food parcels or indeed hosting COVID vaccination centres just in our own local community, lending a hand to those that need it. So we all have a role to take responsibility towards the respect and care of our neighbours and in our schools, in our shopping precincts, in our libraries, in our community towards a safe, respectful and harmonious society. Can I thank the Whittlesea Interfaith Network from the bottom of my heart for being an absolute beacon of respect, harmony and support for all of us in our local community. You have done all of us very proud in the work that you do, ensuring that people have the safety and the security to express faith, to express their values within a public realm. And ultimately that is the test of a tight-knit community, a harmonious community that truly does respect and value the contributions of all to making us all better citizens of our local community. So thank you once again, and peace to all of you.
Thank you very much, Honourable MP Lily D'Ambrosio, for your wonderful words, your very powerful words. And we also thank you and the state government for all their support for interfaith engagement and interfaith initiatives, and supporting multicultural communities through the various laws that protect us and the freedom of people to be able to practice their faith and their values openly. Now we have the Intercultural Officer for the City of Whittlesea, Fatih Erol Tuncer. He has a long history of interfaith engagement in various capacities with Australian Intercultural Society and continues to support Whittlesea Interfaith Network. He's the project manager also for the Council's International Student Wellbeing Hub. Welcome, Fatih. I'll just spotlight you.
So
Right,
thank
Fatih, there you
you.
are. Welcome.
Thank you for the very kind introduction, Gulhan. It's always a pleasure to be involved in the Whittlesea Interfaith Network program, so it's a great pleasure tonight. So I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and the ongoing custodians of the lands from which we connect today. And I am connecting from the land of the Wurundjeri Wurrung clan, and I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. And as always, it is an honour to share the same platform as Uncle Andrew Gardner and any other elder or First Nations people who might be joining today. I believe they have passed on to us their wisdoms in various ways, so may we hold this in trust as we work to serve our communities. I'd also like to acknowledge all our distinguished participants tonight, which I won't repeat as our previous speakers, such as the Honourable Lily D'Ambrosio have also eloquently acknowledged, so I won't repeat that. But my name is Fatih Erol Tuncer, and I'm the Intercultural Officer for the City of Whittlesea. I feel very special of having the important role of supporting community organisations such as the Whittlesea Interfaith Network, and take great pride in the work I do as I work alongside passionate volunteers such as the WIN Committee, WIN being Whittlesea Interfaith Network, who have been advancing interfaith dialogue and understanding throughout our municipality for many years. Our municipality is an amazing, intricate mosaic of diverse faiths, beliefs, traditions, and languages. Australia's religious, cultural, and ethnic diversity is constantly increasing. In our municipality, for example, which is a small snapshot, from 2011 to 2016, while our Christian population increased, so did our non-Christian total by about 45%, which makes Australia the pluralistic society that it is today. But with that comes, certain responsibility, and that is to acknowledge that also requires a greater level of understanding and respect towards building stronger communities. As tonight's theme suggests, interfaith engagement is fundamental for a connected community. Therefore, the City of Whittlesea truly values and prides itself on the work undertaken by the Whittlesea Interfaith Network, by the support that we give the Interfaith Network over many years, and we applaud the important work they do with all the faith leaders and communities in Whittlesea to strengthen interfaith connection and understanding. The Whittlesea Interfaith Network advances our commitment to social cohesion and to building the resilience of the community in the face of challenges. We have appreciated the role our faith communities have played in bringing community together and supporting the community with programs like tonight. And we've certainly noticed the tireless relief efforts and supported the tireless relief efforts displayed to meet needs resulting from the ongoing pandemic, which the Honourable Lily D'Ambrosio also noted. So our faith communities are truly special to us. As such, we need to continue to recognise the importance of intercultural and interfaith dialogue. We shouldn't wait around for another tragedy before we passionately build understanding and harmony among our faith traditions or community. Wars, terrorist attacks, and religious conflicts contribute to fear and hatred towards members of certain religions and certain groups and certain demographics. We need to call out incorrect statements about faith groups disseminated through the media or community and the perpetuation of offensive stereotypes. As Han Kung suggests, there will be no peace among the nations without peace among the religions. There will be no peace among the religions without dialogue among the religions. So interfaith dialogue provides a forum for these stereotypes to be broken down. An interfaith dialogue is a meeting of people of different religions in an environment of freedom and openness. It involves listening to the other and attempting to understand their views while offering our own. And it shouldn't be confused with debate. While the purpose of debate is to make the best argument in order to prove a point right, the purpose of dialogue is to explore both points of view with an attitude of respect to understand the other. We need to promote our coming together to promote the values of community, justice, and peace. As I mentioned, I am a council officer, but I am also a Muslim, and I'd like to finish up with a prayer offered by Imam Abdullah Antepli from Duke Divinity School in the USA, who presented this prayer at a similar gathering at a memorial service to mark the 9/11 tragedy. So Imam Abdullah prayed, God of all nations, look with favor upon our nations as we remember the tragic terrorist attacks of 9/11. Be our source of strength, healing, and comfort as our wounds still bleed. God of wisdom and compassion, you create eventual blessings out of every kind of evil. Make us instruments and agents of such creation as we strive to turn the post-9/11 challenges into opportunities and blessings for others and ourselves. God of mercy and grace, we bring up the immediate victims and their loved ones of these heinous acts into your attention. Be their light in these moments of darkness and difficulty. God of hope and glory, do not let our hopes overcome by our fears. Do not let our souls cripple by despair. Be our source of hope and guidance in these times of sorrow and mourning. O God, if we forget you, do not forget us. In your most holy and beautiful names we pray. Amen. So for every darkness, there is a light, and the light which resulted from this tragedy, I believe, is the dialogue of the heart as our community stood in solidarity in support for one another. In the spirit of great Sufi mystics, it is our duty to love the created for the love of our creator. May we never need another tragedy to realize the importance of respecting, listening, and understanding one another. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pati, for your insightful words. I really believe that was one of the silver linings. Interfaith engagement was one of the silver linings that we can all appreciate. One of my very earliest events that I've ever been to was shortly after 9/11, and that was organised by Australian Intercultural Society. I didn't know Fatih until he started working at Whittlesea Interfaith Network, but I remember even back then, just the amount of compassion and the welcoming feeling that I had when these faith leaders from other faiths, they actually reached out with open arms, and they obviously hadn't been watching the news, because the way they approached us was very, very different to what the feeling was in the communities at the time. So I remember that was a very moving experience, and I remember it shaped how I view our communities moving forward. And I saw and I felt it, that we need more interfaith engagement if we are going to have a more socially cohesive community. Our next speaker is a woman in leadership in the city of Whittlesea. She is the president of the Sikh Community Connections, and we are also very, very blessed to have her on board at Whittlesea Interfaith Network as our PR and media coordinator from the executive team of Whittlesea Interfaith Network. Can I please spotlight Gurinder Kaur? Where are you, Gurinder? There you are.
Thank you, Gulhan. Thank you for the kind introduction. It's such an emotional day today with the 20th anniversary as we celebrate. Just before I begin, I would like to acknowledge the rich Aboriginal heritage and traditional honors of this land we are meeting today. And I pay my respect to the past, present, and emerging leaders. I would also like to acknowledge all our distinguished and honorable guests who have joined us today for this very significant event. 20 years after the tragic events of September 11th. I know in all over Australia and even across the globe, many communities and faith groups, they are coming together and to commemorate this anniversary through recommitting ourselves to the values of mutual respect, partnership, and equality. For the Sikh community, the 20th anniversary of September 11th, as with any other community, it acts as a bitter and sad reminder of not only the tragedy of the lives which were lost on this day, but also the lives lost and forever changed in the days and years following. After September 11th, the Sikh community experienced a sharp increase in discrimination in many forms, including increased reports of hate crimes, bullying, employment discrimination, racial and religious profiling, especially against males who typically wear beards and turbans to demonstrate their faiths. I remember a Sikh entrepreneur, his name was Balbir Singh. He was killed at a gas station just 4 days after the September 11 attacks by a man who declared he was going to go out and shoot some towel heads and mistook his identity at that time. So because of the distinct external religious identity, Sikhs are still being targeted for bias-based and discriminatory treatment, even after 20 years. Today, we are commemorating this anniversary and with a call to the community to get more involved in education and awareness efforts. We encourage everyone, all the faiths, to educate ourselves and others about our rights and to educate about our faith. And think being part of, being part of Whittlesea Interfaith Network plays a significant contribution in this education campaign. Hate crimes and other forms of discriminatory behavior, we know these are rooted in fear and ignorance, and we need to do our part to educate ourselves and others and work towards a more peaceful world. Within City of Whittlesea and in various other councils, hospitals, workplaces, as Sikh community, we have been holding many turban awareness sessions in a very friendly, non-judgmental environment, just to educate and learn from each other. And one thing I believe that has changed since 20 years is that we are now telling our own stories and organizing on the ground and online these kind of events. We are writing articles, making our own films, building new organizations. So believe we are no longer victims or bystanders. Personally, I feel proud being part of Whittlesea Interfaith Network team, which has given me opportunities to visit various places of faith and understand other faiths in much better way and maintain that personal touch and relationship with each other. In fact, I believe it has given me opportunity to understand how much we relate despite belonging to different faiths. Many times I've felt I belong to one religion. I don't want to even name some religion sometimes. Just to conclude, the 9th Sikh Guru, I'll just share his words. He said, "Nobody expects the unexpected to happen, but still we see that there is nothing unusual, extraordinary, or unbelievable about any of the happenings. Humans act inhumanly all the time. However, we stand with our values and we will continue to make efforts to educate and spread love, harmony with other communities. We pray for the departed souls and we pray for their families and pray we don't see such incidents in any future." In the end, I would like to conclude with the closing words from Sikh everyday prayer, which says, "Nanak naam chaddi kala, tere pane sarbat da phala," which means, with your blessings, peace for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Corinda. Very, very insightful, very moving words. We now have our speaker who has a long history of interfaith engagement, and he's also the former president of Whittlesea Interfaith Network, nominated several times actually. And he's also the president of the Indian Jewish Association of Australia. Let me quickly find you. Nathan, where are you? Wonderful. Welcome, Nathan. You're on mute, brother.
That's it. Yes, sorry. It's humbling to be here with all of you and hearing all your words. I'd like to acknowledge all our distinguished guests. Thank you for making the time to join with us, as you always do at Whittlesea Interfaith Network. And I'd like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which we stand and from which we speak. They are the traditional custodians, and acknowledge the elders past, present, and emerging. It's been a time of reflection. I can remember vividly, from a personal point of view, being called to see the news. It was the late night news where suddenly everything went live. It was late at night. We just happened to be awake, and there was all these things happening. And the different emotions that go through one when you see these things, sometimes you think, well, you know, why does this happen? How does it happen? How can we stop these things continuing to happen? Because it's an assault on our common humanity. It doesn't matter who does what, where, and when, but basically it brings home the fact that there is a lot of anger, there's a lot of ill will in the collective consciousness of humanity, and that gave a lot of an impetus to join and work with the interfaith movement, to remember better times in humanity when, growing up in India, even though we were Jewish, we were welcomed. We celebrated with our Muslim brothers, our Hindu brothers, our Christian brothers. We celebrated and each other's festivals. And I think it's when you are separated with the Sikhs, when we are separated from each other, with the Parsi friends, you know, when we are separated from each other, I think, and we don't talk, that's when we have all these sorts of misunderstandings and misinformation. And in fact, I was reflecting that our brother Herman, which many of you know, who is a former Jesuit priest who is now teaching, world religions and philosophy in Pakistan, in Lahore, gave us a presentation where he talked about how in early Islam, there was a number of things which said, there were a number of people of the book were all being welcomed by the Prophet of blessed memory. You had him talking about if God, Allah had decided he could have made us all the same, but he chose to make us different. And so people who have not been exposed to all these other beautiful understandings can quite easily be sort of represented. And that is up to all of us to come together and say, well, we don't agree with this narrative where they're trying to divide humanity. And to that end, we are reminded that, as Gulan was saying, there was a number of people, including my brother-in-law. He and his family had stopped to get gas at a station. Suddenly they were surrounded by police not long after 9/11 because they were of darker colored skin. Somebody had reported them that there are these, terrorists with a family here. So there was so much fear that has boiled up. And what I think is important for us to remember is, in the collective consciousness of humanity, we have to try and lift it out of this thing. And this is where interfaith and the interfaith movement has been so wonderful, to actually get people together, to remember that, justice is what should prevail, and to also remember that none of us is separate from what happened, because at the time when it happened, we thought, oh, you know, how sad for those people. And then we were ringing people in New York or other people we might have known and saying, you know, are you okay? Is everything all right? And these sorts of things. And then down the track, we heard that somebody from our community had been, one of their young daughters was traveling on one of those planes. And she passed away. And so it touched everyone. You know, sometimes you think you are separated, but you're not separate. And so I think it's very important for each of us to sort of realize that we are all connected. We are all one. God is one. God is everywhere. God is in everyone. And as Albert Einstein, the most celebrated physicist, has said and proven, that energy can neither be created nor destroyed. And the lesson for us is that no matter, it's very easy for people to try to destroy and divide us. But if we can come together and if we can make sure that we are as one and we don't allow this separation that people are trying to force on us, they want to keep us away from each other and from understanding, then as this interfaith movement, we can make a big difference in bringing together all the faiths, all the religions in as one humanity. And that, I think, is the thing that comes out, is it has actually, despite what they tried to do and separate us, we have actually come together united. And I think that is really something that we have to continually work hard against and increase our level of participation and engagement. And I thank you for this opportunity, and I will hand over to the others and let them also have their wonderful says. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nathan, and we appreciate your long history of engagement with Whittlesea Interfaith Network. Next up, we have Inspector Chris Allen. Let me just quickly find you. Inspector Chris actually came over to the Whittlesea region from Hume Interfaith Network. So he has a history of interfaith engagement through Hume Interfaith Network. I'll just spotlight you quickly. Welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you, Gilhan. Thank you, everyone. I do feel honoured to be part, or to be asked to speak tonight at the Whittlesea Interfaith Network, commemorating the 9/11 attacks. And I've just noticed I'm probably the only speaker tonight without a great backdrop, so I apologise in advance. I too would also like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we meet tonight, and I'm actually on Wurundjeri, or land of the Wurundjeri people, and I pay my respects to their elders past, present and emerging. I also acknowledge the Honourable Lily D'Ambrosio, MP, Gilhan, the President of the Whittlesea Interfaith Network, and Uncle Andrew Gardner. Bruce Calcott says hello, Andrew, Uncle Gardner, and also everyone else here tonight. So yes, I am the Police Local Area Commander for Whittlesea, and I've only been in the hot seat for a couple of months now. Previous to that, I was the Inspector out at Moreland, Moonee Valley and Hume, and also part of the Hume Interfaith Network, although I see Liz is here, so I can't claim to have been the best member with the most highest attendance. I'll blame my kids for that, but it's great to see you here too, Liz. But look, tonight's not about me. It's about the commemoration of the 9/11 attacks and remembering the 2,977 victims, but also remembering and acknowledging the lasting relationships that have formed here as part of the Whittlesea Interfaith Network. And I'd like to start just briefly by a little bit of reflection, and a reflection on what we were doing when this tragedy occurred. And Nathan talked about this briefly before. And there's really only a handful of times throughout the course of history where you can actually remember where you were when news broke of an amazing major and tragic event. for those that remember, and me not included, you know, the assassination of President Kennedy, the landing on the moon. Now, I'm far too young to remember that. And most recently, the death of Princess Diana. But for 9/11, that was one of those times we remembered exactly where we were when that news broke. It was such a big event. And I remember myself, I was stationed at Maui Police Station and living in Terrelgan at the time, and it was my second year of policing. And I remember exactly where I was, and Nathan was right. You know, it was at night time and we were glued to the television. But the event of 9/11 itself has changed policing, and it's changed community engagement as well. It's created a lot greater understanding for Victoria Police. That understanding, or that greater understanding, has led to greater engagement with our Islamic community. It also led to greater education and greater diversity in thinking. And I think that is a great thing. And as times have changed over the years for Victoria Police, we've also changed as well. You know, we now allow and encourage our officers who wear the hijab and the turbans as part of their approved uniform. We've formed our own internal Victoria Police Muslim Employees Association. We've celebrated shoulder to shoulder countless iftar dinners, and if I say hand on heart that they've been responsible for numerous orders for increased sizes and uniforms for our members. But that's just a sign of the generosity and the inclusion that we enjoy today. And I'm also proud to say that we were involved, or I was involved with the designing and implementing one of Victoria Police's first what we called the diversity and inclusion room at Williamstown Police Station. And interestingly enough, the genesis for that at Williamstown Police Station was for Islamic prayer, a place to go that's quiet and allows for the observance of Islamic tradition and prayer. And I remember at the time I was the officer in charge at Williamstown Police Station, and I remember walking into our change rooms, and they were very narrow change rooms, and I was literally stepping over our Islamic PSOs who were on their prayer mats in the change room, who were praying at the time. And I went away from that experience thinking to myself, we could do so much better, and that's exactly what we did. So on a budget of zero and a labour of love from all our members at the station, in the end we decked out one of the best looking prayer rooms, and it got used a lot, which was a good thing. Look, just to finish up on, I'd like to talk about a lasting friendship that I have with an Islamic friend, Imam Abdullah Haweri, from out Wyndham Way. And when we first met, I was doing some engagement work for Victoria Police as a result of the Burke Street attacks. And I still remember his warmth, his hospitality, inviting me into the mosque to address the community. And he had a really warm presence about him, which was unmistakable. And a little while later, I remember informing him of my mother-in-law who had passed away, and the need for my wife to go interstate to console their father, and which effectively left me with the kids. Well, Imam Hawari swung into action, and he checked on my welfare regularly. He had offerings for members of his community to make meals and deliver them to me, and also he imparted some pretty comforting words. And I'll never forget that. And that really is the quintessential and typical of the Islamic culture. It's warm, friendly, and inviting. And look, we still keep in touch. And in fact, I reached out to him the other day when I knew I was speaking tonight. But yeah, look, to finish up onto the members here at the Whittlesea Interfaith Network, the work you do to unite our community is never important as it is today. We all know our community is doing it tough, and it's during times like this that you really recognise and appreciate the need to stick together and support one another. And that's something the Whittlesea Interfaith Network does exceptionally well. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Inspector Chris Allen. Now, I wanted to also use this opportunity to mention that Whittlesea Interfaith Network has a long history of engagement with Victoria Police. We have Ansam, I believe, in the crowd here with us today as well. And Albert has also been a regular member of Victoria Police. And their support actually improves the safety that people feel in our community, which is wonderful. I know shortly after the Christchurch mosque attacks, one of the things that we hosted as Asrat College in collaboration with Whittlesea Interfaith Network was a special assembly. And once again, Honourable MP Lily D'Ambrosio was there. And also the inspector, right after those attacks, supported us in applying for security infrastructure funding. I remember at the time, they actually sent someone out to do a complete assessment of the site and just find out things that we wouldn't normally notice. They actually did a report for us. So they do offer a lot of support to the Muslim community in this region in various ways, and also ongoing support for Whittlesea Interfaith Network. Now, I'd like to welcome two members of Hume Interfaith Network. We've got Liz Shield and we've got Christine Muller. Christine Muller is the, I apologise if I'm not pronouncing that correctly, she's the social policy planner in community health and wellbeing at Hume City Council. And Liz is the community development officer with the multicultural portfolio. And they're going to tell us a little bit about Hume Interfaith Network. I'll just spotlight you there. And where are you, Christine? There you are, wonderful.
Hi.
Welcome, ladies.
Well, thank you so much. Well, firstly, I would like to acknowledge the Wurundjeri Wurrung people, including the Gulum Willumbag people, which are first and original people of this land. So thank you so much for being here. What I will do is just give a little bit of an introductory, and I think Liz will carry on with the conversations. I'm Chris, and hello, and I've been with Hume City Council for the past 20 years, hence me being asked for being here to, to give my experiences of a little bit of a short introductory about the Hume Interfaith Leaders Network, which was established in Hume. The network was actually emanated from a multicultural issues forum, which was hosted in Hume and around 2000s. So it was prior to what we experienced with regards to the imminent attack. But community important to actually establish a multi-faith network here in Hume in order to express the different diversities of faith, as well as in Hume, including Christian, Islamic, Buddhist, and Hindu faiths, which were experienced in Hume at the time. Although it was intended, the aim of the network was to develop a deeper understanding of different faiths across the many cultures across the Hume municipality. They also committed themselves to share responsibility to strengthening local harmony and connection across many different organizations across Hume. It was actually the latter that gathered the interfaith leaders into a strong demonstration of community cohesion at the time of 9/11, where the Hume faith leaders got together and stood together and collectively condemned the act of terrorism. Similarly, this continued with regards to the members across where they had a symbol of incredible strong unity in faith when the London bombings happened, as well as the Bali bombings happened. They too got together to involve themselves in Hume's Iraqi conflict crisis recovery group, where they got together and worked with council as long as with regards to humanitarian organizations and communities to find out and how they could actually deal with localized needs, especially connecting with families and communities in Iraq through the Red Cross. As one of the interfaith leaders has shared with us, and I think this is really a lovely moment of what they wrap their faith around and around our community is saying, many of the suffering ones be suffering free, be the fear struck, be fearless be. May the grieving shed all grief, and may all beings feel relief. And I think that sums up the heart of the community around the Interfaith Network, which was established in Hume. And I would like to pass you on to Liz, who will actually guide you to some of the experiences that she's had with the network. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Can you see my screen? Can everyone see what I'm sharing? Yep. Thank you. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land, the Wurundjeri Woi-wurrung, and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal people here this evening, as well as to all the previous distinguished speakers. Thank you. This has been a really special event to be part of, and I thank Gulhan and the Whittlesea Interfaith Network for the opportunity. I know time's running tight, so I will go very quickly through my presentation that I have here, just to go through some of the highlights of what the Hume Interfaith Network has been involved with over the past 20 years, some of their achievements and different members. There have been obviously different network executives over that time, and through the years they developed this logo that has the different symbols of the different faiths that were represented in the network. They developed a brochure, and thousands of copies of those have been printed and distributed, probably before the internet was so much of a thing. And now, you know, we probably need a website and a Facebook page or something, but we haven't quite got there yet. We also compiled a faith directory to help people understand a bit more about the different faiths in the area, which had some descriptions of the faith groups and lists of places of worship and their contact details. And we're in the process of updating that to have a more up-to-date digital version that will be online. The Interfaith Network ran a series of forums about the passage of life, showing the meanings and celebrations and rituals of birth, adulthood, marriage and death in a number of faith traditions to help foster that understanding, you know, because as one of the previous speakers mentioned, a lot of acts of violence are born of ignorance and prejudice, and so increasing that understanding. And this resulted in the creation of a DVD and some other resources that were shared amongst the community. There's also been a number of outreach activities that involved people from different faith backgrounds, including the ever popular place of worship tours, an interfaith exhibition and expo held in Hume, a number of public multi-faith services where faith leaders from different faith traditions spoke, a refugee welcome barbecue, youth leadership forum, and there were also youth camps and excursions with our Hume Interfaith Network youth group. And recently, we organised with the Darebin Intercultural Network a Faith Responses to Gendered Violence Forum at the end of last year as part of the 16 days of activism against gender-based violence, which was very successful and held online in these COVID times. Also a Talking Faith event that was very successful. You can see there one of our Sikh members and some other members wearing turbans because we had a live demonstration of turban tying with an explanation about what it meant. Because, as one of the previous speakers mentioned, it is a very visible form of faith that people don't always know much about. And these other sort of forums about understanding social cohesion and community forums where people are able to come and learn and share and experience something that they might not have experienced before and ask questions and have an opportunity to meet people from different faiths. So, which all contributes to community cohesion and to hopefully bring about a more peaceful society, which is definitely the aim of the Human Interfaith Network. That's all. And if you want more information, please check the Hume website under our diverse community. We have a section there about the Human Interfaith Network. Of course, feel free to contact me. I think I got that in under 3 minutes, so I'll stop now. Thank you, Gulhan.
Thank you very much to both of you. If I can, how do I, 1 second, sorry. Move spot, there we go. Okay. We now have a special speaker from the Afghan community. We have Ihsan Daleri, who works as the team for diversity and intercultural development at Melton City Council. He completed his MBA in international development in Ireland, and he's also the winner of the prestigious Refugee Recognition Record Award. And he's also published a book recently called Raised in Conflict, which is all about firsthand experiences from his time in Afghanistan. If I can find Ihsan Daleri. Oh, there you are. Welcome, Ihsan Daleri.
Thank you, Sister Gulhan. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening, everyone. Peace be upon each and every one of you. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional owners of the land that we are all in, and pay my respect to their elders, past, present, and emerging. And I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional Aboriginal people actually in this room, Uncle Andrew Gardner, and I'd also like to acknowledge Honourable Member of Parliament Lily Temburosi, and everyone else in here. It's actually a big honor to be part of this network. I didn't realize that this is big and massive, and I only have 5 minutes. But before everything else, I'd like all of us to have half a minute of silence to pay our homage and respect to thousands of people who died on this day in the United States in the last 20 years in different parts of the world, but also in my country where I come from, Afghanistan. Can we have half a minute of silence, please? Thank you. I have very little time. I will not get into, what I was planning to present, which was, the Melton Interfaith Network and the approach that we have, because I have very little time. I'll just reflect on some of the things that I have personally experienced growing up in Afghanistan. It was 1996. I was in Kabul when Taliban came actually and captured Kabul. And in the morning, 5 a.m., when we got up, we saw, in Kabul, the regime changed. It was horrible to see what happened. And we had to, as a family, go to Pakistan and seek refuge there. And I distinctly remember it was 9/11, 2001. I was an English teacher teaching Afghan refugees there, and I was checking the homework of students. My mom was sitting, and we were in the same room. And we had CNN. On that time, we had dish antenna, the satellite television that we received. And we had CNN on, and I saw, the tower under fire. And I was just thinking that maybe it's a movie, it's something. I was just wondering what it was. Then I saw another plane hitting the other tower, and I realized that that was real. So what happened from 2011 until August 15, 2021, 20 years of change in Afghanistan, 20 years of really great changes in different spheres of life. But a lot of lives were also lost. Sadly, we had a vibrant Sikh community and Hindu community in Afghanistan. They were Afghans that migrated, hundreds and hundreds of years ago when there was no border, between Pakistan, Afghanistan, and all that. And all of them left, which is really sad. In just this week, unfortunately, the last Afghan Jew, Zebulon Cemented, also left. He stayed, he's 62-year-old Afghan Jew, and stayed there all of his life. He was born 62 years ago in Western Afghanistan. So it's a very tough time for us as a community because, my parents live in Kabul at the moment, and I speak with them on a daily basis and with my friends. It is really, really hard for all of us. And it is a really difficult time for us because, not only we are really worried about what's going on in our country, but also we are worried that what's happening, there impacts people in Australia, particularly people of Afghan heritage, myself and thousands of others. And I would like, to make a request that, as a community, and I understand that I'm probably preaching to the converted group. We are all coming from interfaith or backgrounds that have empathy in this space, to be a bit more sensitive towards, people from Afghanistan, refugees, asylum seekers, and all Afghan Australians. And if we could support them in this really difficult time, particularly advocating towards actually increasing the number of visas that were allocated for Afghans, that was recently announced by our Prime Minister, Scott Morrison. 3,000, we are talking about millions of people that are really under stress and living in really dangerous situations due to their associations with different aspects of life. And it is, again, I tell you that it's a tough time, but I would like all of us to keep our fingers crossed so that, there's these bloodshed stops there in normal life is lost. And also request each and every one of you to keep us in your thoughts and prayers, because it's a very tough time. Thank you very much. Have a lovely evening.
Thank you, Brother Ihsan. Wa alaikum salam. Thank you for your sharing your lived experience from your time in Afghanistan. And we do encourage everyone to support in any way they can the Afghan community here and abroad. Now we have a special guest speaker, Dr. Dinesh Sood. Dr. Dinesh is a retired professor from RMIT University, and he studied nuclear physics. He's a nuclear physicist, and he has a long history of engagement with Interfaith. He's the past president of Indian Seniors Association of Victoria, and he's organised diabetes education and computer literacy for the seniors and many cultural events. Dr. Dinesh, I'll just spotlight you. Welcome, welcome. How are you? Are you on mute? You're on mute.
Yeah, I have just unmuted now. Yeah, thank you very much. I would like to thank Nathan and Gulhan, our president, to invite me to share my lived experiences of 9/11 in America, which changed my life totally. And every day I still live with the legacy of that day and how it changed me. So I will try to share some of these impressions with you. And I'll try to stay within my time. And, I am just running an alarm here to make sure I do that. And I will, please pardon me if I just close suddenly towards the end. Now, my experience has been rather unique, and I'm glad that I have been invited to share it. Let me start with, first of all, mentioning that everyone knows that there were 2,996 lives lost on that day. I was visiting as a visiting professor in the University of Arkansas in Fayetteville, and in Arkansas, and this in the College of Engineering. This particular university has been made world famous because of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton, who taught at the law school in early 1970s at this university. I was given this opportunity to have a visiting professor position for 2 years, 2001 and 2003. And every year I would go for 3 months to visit this particular faculty. And that particular day, myself and my wife, we were living in a rented small apartment. And we suddenly received a call from my daughter, who was here in Croydon in our house. And she saw on the Melbourne TV the towers being bombarded, being set on fire by something. And she just called us, and that's how we came to know about this event. And I was at the department. We started usually at about 8 o'clock. And so I immediately rushed to the tea room. And that's where I began to see the things on the TV there. And more and more staff came around as the news spread. And the 9/11, that particular day when I saw, actually, it changed my life altogether. And the first thing I experienced was the first lockdown experience of my life is what I experienced there at that university. Pretty soon, we were given directions by our director and other friends that we should not go out at all and stay at home. Now, that's because it was suspected that because of the skin color, people might think that we are Muslims. And I noticed that this particular feeling in Americans around still persists. And I had this great opportunity of visiting the American universities and research institutions over many years, all these 20 years. I visited USA on very similar academic assignments in these last 20 years, several times. Just to give you an idea, one of them is Berkeley, Arkansas, IBM Research at 2 campuses, and the Florida International University, the Florida International University in Miami, then South Florida University, and so on, right? So I just accelerate a bit now. And I had the opportunity to interact with students, PhD students, or postdoctoral staff, and staff from Iraq and Afghanistan, and experience their feelings and mine intermingle. While they were experiencing this continued discrimination, I still kept feeling the same as I would visit those places. And everywhere in all these academic places, there was a strong feeling that the visitors who are either Muslims or look like Muslims have to be careful. And that I have seen happen to me in all those 20 years. And what I would like to do now at this stage, okay, let me also mention that in Australia, I had a very similar experience because as an academic, I would visit different universities, Melbourne University or ANU, and interact with students coming from different countries, and very similar experience I had. But I would like to now close by showing you, by just playing to you one program which I saw on PBS NewsHour 3 days back. And its title is How 9/11 Changed America as They Knew It. Sorry. This is about, sorry, I had the top line a little bit up above. Its title is American Muslims Reflect on How 9/11 Changed America as They Knew It. It was broadcast 3 days back. I'll just play 2 minutes out of that, 1 minute out of that.
Mark the 20th anniversary of the 9/11 attacks with stories examining some of the ways that day transformed the nation and the world. Tonight, Chief Correspondent Anna.
Can you hear?
Our coverage with a look at the effect on millions of American Muslims.
After 9/11, the lives of millions of American Muslims changed overnight. For the 20 years that followed, U.S. national security would be transformed. Pop culture and media representations of Muslims took a different angle. And over the years, U.S. presidents have explicitly taken very different stances on how Muslims should be seen.
The enemy of America is not our many Muslim friends. It is not our many Arab friends.
This is President Bush
Our
talking.
enemy is a radical network of terrorists and every government that supports them.
The attacks of September 11th, 2001,
Obama.
continued efforts of these extremists to engage in violence against civilians has led some in my country to view Islam as inevitably hostile not only to America and Western countries, but also to human rights. All this has bred more fear and more mistrust.
Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of
Dr. Dinesh, Dr. Dinesh,
United States.
my
Until
apologies.
Just closing now. Yes.
can figure out what the hell is going on.
Now we have three.
Dr.
Okay, now
Dinesh,
there's
my
discussion.
apologies.
I'll close that here. And thank you very much.
Is the legal director of the Center for Constitutional Rights.
My sincere apologies. I'm going to be very rude and
No,
ask.
I understand that, but thanks for listening to my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your lived experience with us. It was very, very insightful. I'm just very, very mindful of the time. We have gone way over, and that was expected because of the number of speakers we've got today and the quality of speakers we've got today. So thank you very much for sharing your lived experiences of your time during 9/11 being in the USA. Our final speaker for tonight, and thank you all for your patience, as I mentioned that we'd have gone over, but you understand that we had so many quality speakers that we wanted to include in this program. We've got Abraham, otherwise known as Abe Schwartz. Now he's a Jewish man who has a long history of engagement with Whittlesea Interfaith Network from the earliest days, long before I was on board, and he's been involved in supporting the late Uncle Reg Blow around Aboriginal spirituality within Whittlesea and far beyond. And he's participated in several programs, including the Peace Tree ceremony within the municipality. Can I quickly find Abe? I saw him a moment ago. Where are you, Abe?
I'm here.
There you are. Welcome. I'll just spotlight you. Welcome.
Thank you. So I too would like to acknowledge the land that we're on, the Uncle Andrew and any other Indigenous elders with us past and present. I'd like to acknowledge the emerging future elders, which is the Aboriginal young people as well, and other elders of other faiths. So yeah, just very quickly, I remember early days. Of course, we've had the councillor speaking earlier about her being only a co-founder. So Uncle Reg Blow, dear belated friend of mine who passed away on the 12th of the 12th of the 12th, was very, very keen to bring Aboriginal spirituality into the interfaith space. And Uncle Reg, on his behalf, I wanted to share a memory of just how important it was, not just because of 9/11, but of all the importance of interfaith dialogue to bring about Indigenous spirituality as being a part of everybody else. A lot of people don't think about Aboriginality when they think about Christians, Jews, Muslims, Sikhs, Zoroastrians, but he was very, very keen that be counted. And I'm sure some people will remember a lot of the beautiful work that he did then. I just thought it was important that got acknowledged tonight. Seeing I'm talking about an Aboriginal elder, I'd like to actually mention another Aboriginal elder that I've had a lot of time to support in the late Uncle William Cooper, whose grandson, Uncle Boydie, and whose nephew, Uncle Doug Nichols, were esteemed elders who brought about a lot of activism and too believed in dialogue. And it's interesting because I got involved in interfaith dialogue on the back of understanding about the importance of dialogue between white fellas and black fellas, between the Aboriginal community and the non-Indigenous community. So particularly because we've got Uncle Andrew here and others, I'd like to bring in, as it turns out I'm the final speaker, I'd like to bring a message that Uncle Doug Nichols brought to the world, which I believe applies to tonight. Uncle Doug wrote that a piano has white keys and it has black keys. But if you just play the white or you just play the black, you don't get perfect harmony. But if you bring the black and the white together, that's how you get harmony. And from that messaging, I thought it was a beautiful message that he shared many, many years ago. From that message, I've extrapolated that to interfaith dialogue. Tonight, particularly, we've done quite a focus about Islamophobia and some of the issues that our Islamic brothers and sisters have suffered as a consequence of the stereotyping that came out of 9/11. And as a Jew, and when Jews and Muslim people are so often pitted against each other, I felt that what we have to do is reach out in particular to our Islamic brothers and sisters, and they to us. And there's a number of them on this call. I can see Aziz Cooper, and I can see quite a lot of people that have been involved in interfaith dialogue from the Muslim perspective. So as a Jew, I think it's really important that I take the messaging from our Indigenous elder and Uncle Doug Nichols and reach out and say, on this night of 9/11, we are all brothers and sisters. And it's only through events like tonight where we can bring about true dialogue at a grassroots level. It's wonderful to have the politicians involved, whether it's the state MP who I honour being here tonight or the local politicians. It's great to have federal politicians or United Nations leaders. But in my opinion, that's not where the change happens. The change happens at this grassroots dialogue level. And Whittlesea Interfaith Network has been one of the forerunners in that space. There are people like Dilnaz on this call that I've been involved with many other interfaith networks, like Another Win, Women's Interfaith Network, and Common, Centre for Melbourne Multi-Faith and Others Network. Let's all get the strength from being reconnected tonight. Let's go out tomorrow. Don't wait another day. To our neighbours. Maybe there's a new neighbour that's moved in from another culture or another faith. Let's find somebody when we're allowed to go walking to a park or something when COVID rules allow, and let's not breach that. And reach out to somebody who we don't know and make them feel welcome. Somebody new that comes out. Because only when we do this at the grassroots level, which is what WIN totally positively brings that messaging to us. And I've seen it for the 20 years. And Uncle Reg Blow was so proud to be one of the, with Chris Poblitis, one of the co-founders of that. I bring a message of goodwill, and let's take that message from Uncle Doug Nichols. Let the different aspects all come together, because together it makes harmony. I particularly thank Win for being willing to start tonight late. I wasn't originally going to start after 7. It did, because our sacred Sabbath didn't finish tonight until there were 3 stars in the sky. And that just goes to show how just a little bit of compromise can make a huge difference to involve another culture. And let's all learn from what Gulhan did by allowing that to make a little bit of compromise to make this world a better place. I thank you all. I say peace, salam, shalom. Thank you.
What a beautiful way to wrap up the evening. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Abe, for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your energy. I think one of the things we do very well here in the city of Whittlesea through Whittlesea Interfaith Network is interfaith engagement. And that's a testament to the long line of people who have come before us in this space, who have established these platforms and these networks and contacts and really built that community. Now, I wish we had more time. I wish we could engage more, because this conversation can just keep going. Thank you all for joining us here today in commemorating 20 years since the September 11 attacks. We hope that the speakers today have been able to share a glimpse of the various actions that we're taking in the aftermath of the attacks in building community resilience. Thank you to our wonderful speakers. Thank you to the Honourable Lily D'Ambrosio for being here and supporting this initiative. Thank you to all the executive team of Whittlesea Interfaith Network, the amazing people, the driving force, the pioneer and one of the founders of Whittlesea Interfaith Network, Chris Pavlidis, for being here. Thank you for being here. I'd like to also thank our various partners in the Whittlesea Interfaith Network space who are present here supporting us, and some of those include St. Monica's College, Al-Sadat College, students and coordinators here. We've got members of Victoria Police who are here. We have, who else have I met? Hume Interfaith Network is here. Manningham is represented here. I think there was one other group that I actually haven't mentioned. I want to make sure I get all of them in. QWE, what does QWE stand for? Communities Council on Ethnic Issues. is represented here, and Interfaith Networks of Whitehorse have also participated. So thank you all for being here. Aziz Cooper, I saw earlier as well. Farzana has a long history of engagement with Whittlesea Interfaith Network. Farzana, would you like to say a few words quickly? Farzana, I can't not spotlight you. You have such a significant role in Interfaith. Please say a few words.
Thank you, Gulhan. Thank you. But just I want Abraham talk about, Uncle Reg, but I want to remind him, I don't know if he remembers or not, that for many years with Uncle Reg, I used to go to the city for to attend to Common Multi-Faith. And I was very close with him, very close. I was there, in his house, for many, many times, and also with his wife. So thank you for remembering him, in this.
Auntie Walder and Uncle Reg were very special.
Yeah, he was very special. And as I said, all the way, to go to the city, we were together and talking, and he was very, very nice man. Thank you for reminding him. Yeah, thank you. And thanks all the friends, that came all from different, area. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to acknowledge Northside Muslim Circle is in the crowd today. We've got at least 2 members that I recognize that are in the crowd. We've also, do we have one of the students, the student leaders able to say a few words? College captain, is Hamza Gauss in the house?
Have left for studying. I don't know if he's still here. He was.
You can unmute if you're here. Or Miss Nuri, is Miss Nuri available to say a few words?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you,
Wonderful.
Ms. Gulhan and everybody. It reminds me back about 20 years ago when I was in the university and looking for a job at that time, and this news came in at that time. And that was very tough time as a graduate to find a job, and because I wasn't in New Zealand at that time. And so it was just flashback for me, and the speakers who have shared their personal experiences that they faced at that time. I was reminding of my experience that I faced at that time and what a tough time it was for me as well as a graduate teacher. So yeah, so many memories and condolences at the same time. But thank you, Ms. Gulhan and Ms. Tania and everybody from the WIN. It was really nice to be here, get together and share and learn the experiences from the students' point of view. They have not seen 20 years ago because they are still in school life. For them, it's something for them to know what the life was about when this incident took place about 20 years ago. So it's something that will keep reminding us in the future years, and surely we can do a lot more to bring harmony and peace in our communities. So thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for your contribution and your kind words. I'd like to also acknowledge that Cinespace has also participated in this event. Cinespace Inc. have contributed in the past to interfaith engagement programs, grassroots interfaith engagement programs for students. And they've been very crucial in beginning those conversations about the importance of understanding one another, people of different faiths. Now, as I close the recording, I'd like to thank you all once again for participating in this latest Whittlesea Interfaith Network virtual event. Stay safe and peace to you all. Assalam, shalom, and peace.
And a huge thank you to you, Gulhan and Tanya and all the people from Al Sirat. Yeah, Tanya, thank you for involving me. Al Sirat's been a leading light in this process, and you've been the leading light within them. Thank you so much.
Thanks all for being here. Anyone else want to say anything off record? Who's still recording? Oh, there are several.
Yeah,
I think the recordings have stopped. Are they?
I think Mr. Abe Schwartz
yeah,
wants to
beautiful.
say, not Mr. What's his name?
I apologize.